The West Virginia Mountaineers football team will begin their search for a new head coach as Neal Brown was fired yesterday by the university. I'm joined by one half of the Raspy Voice Kids, Brandon Phoenix, to get his reaction to this news. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us here via Zoom.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So we got to get to this big news out of Morgantown yesterday. Neal Brown has been let go as the coach of the Mountaineers after multiple seasons there. They finished 6-6 in a blowout loss to Texas Tech. What do you think led to this firing yesterday?
The man is barely above 500 in his 6 years of coaching in Morgantown, West Virginia. He was a great ambassador for the university. You couldn't ask much more out of a person as far as character goes, as far as developing players. As men, not just athletes, but as students, as men, as part of this community. He did a great job representing West Virginia. He was a great face for West Virginia, but he was not a great winner. And this all comes down to winning. This is a business first and foremost. Neal Brown did not get the job done. He was atrocious against ranked teams. He was barely ever able to beat teams with winning records by the end of the season. It was just time. The best time to fire Neal Brown was 2 years ago. The second best time was now. And Ren Baker got it right.
Absolutely. And it is rumored that Ren Baker is supposed to speak tomorrow, and he probably will be talking about the search for the next head coach. Now, I want to hear from you as well, Brandon, because you and your brother, I'm sure you guys have already talked about some ideas of maybe the next man that you would like to see in charge of the Mountaineer program. So I want to hear it from you first, since we don't have Jeremy with us today as well. What do you think is the next best person to have in charge for the Mountaineers heading into the future?
Well, there's a lot of talk right now. A lot of people talking about Nick Saban. A lot of people talking about Jimbo Fisher. A lot of people talking about Rich Rodriguez. All three great coaches from the great state of West Virginia. Nick Saban, the greatest of them all. Jimbo Fisher, a national champion. And Rich Rod with probably the greatest run of success in West Virginia history. Maybe not overall career, and certainly not the way it ended. But just with the Sugar Bowl win, with a 10-2 season, which culminated in a Fiesta Bowl win after he left. There are a lot of people excited about the opportunity for one of those three guys. I myself am not interested in any of them. Nick Saban, because it's unrealistic. It's highly unlikely. He's made it almost abundantly clear to many people, including to Pat McAfee, that he's not interested in being a coach again at that level. He's retired. But he is interested in helping WVU make a good choice as to who their next coach is. Jimbo Fisher, he's got a great resume. But then when you look at it more deeply, you recognize that he left Florida State in shambles. He left Texas A&M in shambles. I don't want a guy who's on the end of his career, the tail end of his career, who can't get it done coming to Morgantown and trying to win just because he's from the Mountain State. And Rich Rod, the breakup was so embarrassing, so disappointing, such a dismal experience. I could not ever, as a fan, root for Rich Rodriguez to be back. If he was here, I would support him, but I don't believe that he's going to be the guy hired. One of the names that I'm hearing, well, a couple of names. Barry Odom from B. Jeremy talked about the go-go offense that he runs with his offensive coordinator over there being a young man, 37 years old. If he brings his whole staff, there are people that would be excited about Barry Odom. I myself am not sure. He's at UNLV now. He was at Missouri before that. Was not tremendously successful. We want guys who can be successful on the Power 4 level, or at the very least who have what I call innovation. Andy Kettlenicki, the offensive coordinator at Penn State, is pretty much confirmed that he's going to interview for this job, or that he expects to interview for this job. He was at Kansas prior to his stint now at Penn State, and he made that offense look like a juggernaut at Kansas. And if you're able to be successful at Kansas in any capacity, then you can be successful almost anywhere. What will we get out of him? We'll get innovation. We'll get a guy who thinks outside of the box, which is what you need in Morgantown. West Virginia cannot just line up and out-tough people. We can't out-grit people. This isn't the 80s anymore. We can't just outwork people. We have to outthink people. We have to do things that are not expected, things that have not been seen, and we probably have to do it with a mobile quarterback. I like Andy Kettlenicki's name. We'll see what happens with that. But those are the things I'm hearing. Those are the things I'm seeing. Those are the things that I'm interested in as far as coaching. And hopefully Pat McAfee can continue to support and promote what Ren Baker's agenda is.
So, Brandon, you just talked about Pat McAfee and his influence in the Mountaineer program, having conversations with Ren Baker and having been a friend of Nick Saban and some of these other coaches that you just mentioned as well. So I do have to ask, because I do love Pat McAfee and he is an alumni of the university, any shot he gets a chance at the head coaching job with really no experience head coaching?
Pat McAfee has great energy. He's got great contacts. He's a great ambassador for the university. Pat McAfee has no business being the head coach of Morgantown High, let alone West Virginia University. At this point in his career, he's on top of the sports entertainment world. That's where he should stay. But he's a great mouthpiece for sure. He's a great person working the phones behind closed doors, talking to people like Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and others. And a name I forgot to mention earlier, I was told by a booster of WVU Sports that Bill O'Brien is interested in the job. So that could be a possibility as well.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, thank you for sharing your vast knowledge on this topic, as this is big news out of Morgantown, and we got to hope that we get the right man in charge so the Mountaineers can be back on top. I know that's what you and your brother are wishing for tremendously.
For sure. In Ren, we trust.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for sitting down with me, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully next time in studio.